I woke up really early, so I'm gonna do a. This should be really short. This is kind of for me too, just to be like, hey, here's everything interesting that's changing. Here's what I should look at. Uh, Everything's updated. If I put 9, blah blah blah. So this is all live now. Um, I didn't read this because I don't attack move because I play melee champion. If I have attack move, or if I get in the habit of attack moving, it has the nasty side effect of often attacking minions next to me. Um, I mean, this is just bigger numbers. Gonna have to play against Ash. She had a bizarrely high win rate, which I went into yesterday. So, we'll see. This change was interesting. Akali might be playable because Akali's damage has always been pretty consistent. It's never gone up, it's always been lowered. This is the first time I think it's gone up in ever. I don't think she has ever actually had her damage increased. Now her damage has been increased considerably. Um, Obviously, you'll run yourself out of energy if you use this, but on the other hand, it's like, I mean, if you could use all your energy at the beginning of a fight rather than having to wait, that's a big deal. This is a pretty big nerf. This is a very big nerf. Um, yeah, he'll still be viable. He just won't. The big thing is that Hecarim used to spam his Q in lane to keep up the passive effect, the additional, lower cooldown. And he would spam it and he would spam it and he would spam it. Whenever it came time to fight, it would always have 2 stacks of it, which made it quite difficult for champions like Darius or Gnar or champions that are supposed to be countering him. It's not like they couldn't beat him, but it was often difficult to find an entry. And especially for champions like Jax and Aurelia, who, are all melee range, every time they go in, boom, they get hit by a Q. And if they try to fight back, he's got another Q in 2 seconds. And after that, another Q in 2 seconds. And after that, another Q in 2 seconds. Um, yeah. This change, it's a start. It's kind of like the Riven change. It's like, hey, we know she's a problem. We're just too dumb to give her actual nerves. That's really all I can say. Morgana, this seemed weird to me because it was like, they always is, in interest of keeping her strength strong. The entire kit is just going to be her root and her ultimate. That's all it's going to be. Her root and her ultimate. They're eventually going to remove Black Shield. They're going to remove Tormented Soil. She's not going to have item slots. She's not going to have her W. They're just going to straight up remove her W. She won't have it on her kit anyway. She's going to have 2 buttons, Q and R. And then Riot will keep saying, in the interest of keeping her strength strong, they'll remove her ultimate, and she'll have one button. Just at the bottom of the screen is just gonna be Q, just a giant Q. At a certain point, isn't it fun if champions are well developed and not just walking roots? It's just a bug fix. Not like Nasus is strong. Let's change. I don't like this change because especially with how much they're nerfing tank items, Cinderhulk and Skirmisher Saber. Now maybe Nocturne did use Skirmisher Saber, so that's a nerf to him too. But on the other hand, they're running a dump truck over his Cinderhulk, and Skirmisher Saber helped tanks more than it helped Nocturne. And so I don't like a champion, especially that was skirting with the prospect of being viable, that was flirting with the idea of it all, to then just go ahead and just send him like this is like the nude pics of buffs. He's like flirting with being viable, and Riot's like, here's our nudes. 30 more damage at rank 1. Because that's a lot, 30 damage at rank 1. Um, I don't know if this change is going to make him viable, but uh, I'll go into this later. The Cinderhulk nerfs mean that these 1v1 champions who weren't building Cinderhulk, who were trying to top lane, like Darius, like Garen, like Olaf, They might not be viable, but they'll be more viable because you won't run into the issue where you get to mid to late game and like you can't do anything against a tank anymore because it just hits you with Skirmisher Saber, which takes away a huge chunk of your damage. 20% of your damage is gone. Meanwhile, they're out tanking you because Cinderhulk's giving like 800 health late game. And yeah, this is a buff. I mean, it means Tiamat is less required on him, but I don't know how. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's a buff. I mean, certainly what it does is it allows you to auto attack into W a lot more consistently. I don't know if that was a good idea because I mean, obviously Renekton's laning phase is always good. It's just after the laning phase what happens. Um, like they changed earlier with Kalista. It's like, yeah, we know she's overpowered, but we're not going to do anything about it. We're too stupid to do anything about it. But a nerf is a nerf. You know, maybe it means that she misses a catch. Maybe a catch she might have gotten, she misses a little bit. You know, I don't know. If they had reduced it to like 315, you know, so when she's not using her 10 gap closers, she's really, really, really slow. Maybe that would have been good. Um, this didn't seem to actually do anything. Yeah. More bubs to Tristana. I'm just waiting for it, man. They're gonna nerf Jinx, they're gonna nerf Kalista, and we're gonna be in the age of Tristanius. Um, Once again, they keep saying, "Oh, but he has no presence in fights." Well, maybe it's because he's got like the 10th lowest armor in the game as a pure melee no gap closing champion, and he only has 8 seconds of not being the squishiest motherfucker in the game. And that's only if he ults a tank. To poke, you know, champions like Jace, Ezreal, Jinx, yeah, he gets shred up because he has no armor. Meanwhile, he has to build Blade of the Ruined King because he's got no base damage of his own. And then he builds Blade of the Ruined King, and now you got this champion he's got what, 67 armor at level 18? 67? And average armor is like 80. High armor would be like 90. The highest in the game is like 99. He's 67. Let me put this in perspective. Jinx has 82. He is 67. I like this because what this does is this allows Xin Zhao to use his ultimate for its intended purpose to greater effect, which I think is good because when you're not, a lot of buffs tend to buff people like, oh, we're just making you stronger, but it's like, this isn't making him stronger 1v1. This isn't making him stronger if he just mashes all his buttons. This makes him stronger if he's using his ultimate to its intended effect. Um, this would be good for like if you're fighting, if you're trying to fight him with like Gnar or Jax or what other champions? Victor. Well, not Victor because you need 1.5 seconds. But you know, champions like that, Cho'Gath, he won't be able to just pop his ult, immediately dodge away, then throw up a shadow, go back into melee range, and now your CC is on cooldown because he tried to use it. Um, I mean, look at this. Even if we're just talking the pure damage, just the damage without any ramp up, at all. Okay, this item does. Look at this. Look at this. This item does significantly less damage. And then if you actually look at its ramp up, and it was not hard to get it ramped up. With champions like Mundo or Maokai who could just throw a sapling out, or you know, were just tanky enough to get it stacked up over a fight. This damage right here was incredibly common, in my opinion. And was also incredibly common for top lane to be farming a wave, and now since your Cinderhulk's stacked up, now it wouldn't be a lot of damage, but when you're taking an additional like 10 damage a second, you know, 50 damage over a fight, that's not something you want. And now if you compare like the stacked up damage to this damage, I mean, they ran a train over this item. And then especially, man, Now, I didn't actually know this was true. I thought people were joking about this, but this would explain a lot why I was having difficulty with Darius when I was trying to fight these mega tanks. And I mean, when you combine this change with this change, I'm I mean that's pretty much it for tanks, man. Especially with the buffed Blade of the Ruined King. And this is what I said earlier. They buffed Blade of the Ruined King, and now they nerfed all the tank items. Well, now the next time tanks are going to come back and be viable, what are they going to do then? But I mean, Grokkus and Sejuani will still be viable. They were just that broken. They'll still be picked. But I think we'll see Rek'Sai probably go back to Warriors. We'll see. I don't know. Uh, I think this change is mostly aimed at Nunu. Nunu doing solo level 3 dragons was a little bit annoying, especially because once you got that first dragon buff and all your lanes are getting like 4 or 5 more damage, it means that they're just winning trades. That if they traded evenly before dragon, now they're just winning every trade, and they're doing that forever for the entire laning phase. And now in the next dragon, they've got the first dragon buff, so they know the timer. They know. Well, I mean, they don't know, but they have the first dragon. It was just so. I think this change is good. It was really frustrating to just like their team has Nunu and like your jungler is like trying to gank a lane. Maybe he succeeds, maybe he doesn't. But then their jungler gets dragon. It's just like wow, that was way more effective. And I couldn't have done anything with it because I'm top lane. What am I gonna do? Ward dragon? It's all howling business, all bug fixes, blah blah. Yeah. Aren't people still bitching about the Rengar skin? Pretty certain that they are. And then, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of skins coming out, man. That Mordekaiser skin, by the way, in game it still looks pretty good, but holy crap, what happened to her chest? Look at her waist. Who drew this? What the hell? Look, the more you think about it, the more you notice how absurd it is. I mean, it's kind of funny because Talon blows shit. uh, this is Singe, Rengar, Talon. So it's Singe, Talon, Rengar, Twitch. It's Thresh, I guess. Alright. Well, that's it. Some things to take away. Uh, 1v1 champions like Jax, Darius, etc. They're going to be a lot better after the patch because you won't just be able to go Cinderhulk skirmishers and completely negate the ability to 1v1. Remember I did that on Shen the other day? Somebody picked Darius, I just went Shen with skirmishers. Every trade I won after I got skirmishers, and it was just like, okay, so now you're playing Shen, and you beat Darius 1v1. Yeah, it's like when you fight Shyvana and Shyvana beats you 1v1. Champions like Renekton, champions like Olaf, they're gonna be better. I don't know if they're gonna be good, but at the very least they're not gonna be wrecked by tanks. 80 carries were number one. They're gonna be even harder number one now. Their bitching has once again made them the best champion of the season. Yeah, 80 carries, you did it! 5 seasons in running, undefeated. Um, I mean, this change isn't enough to make him viable. 67 armor. It's still not Jinx or Kalista, so nothing. It's nothing. This is not enough to balance her. Not enough to make him viable, but it's good that they're thinking of him, I guess. Not enough to make him viable But again, it's good that they're thinking of him. Olaf's problem is he's got low armor. Not enough, not as much low armor as Trundle, but again, here's a champion who has to build damage to do damage, who doesn't have high armor. Like champions that can build damage are champions that have some inherent tankiness. Champions that don't die immediately. Champions like Jax, champions like Aurelia. You know, Aurelia heals so much and she has high base armor. Champions like Nocturne, who's just got hard CC. Again, Aurelia, hard CC. Jax, hard CC. Olaf, no hard CC. Trundle, no hard CC. Um, not enough to not make her viable. And then Hecarim with 2 hard CC. And always a way to get in range. And 20% leg steal. That's why he builds damage. Should have done more nerfs than this. But I think at the very least what this will do is that during your first couple of ganks before she gets her Hydra Blazerun King and is running around, you know, just running, like literally using her auto attacks to move faster than she would if she actually just moved her movement speed. I mean, she's still immune to slows, which is huge, which is absolutely huge. So, a lot of champions that would rely on slows, like Shyvana or Olaf, especially Olaf, you know, Mundo, it's just like they're not gonna be viable. Um, it isn't enough to not make him viable, but is enough to mean that if you first pick Hecarim, you can now pick stuff like Darius, and like he can't just queue over the creep wave to then try to like go even with you 1v1. Like he's gonna run himself out of mana trying to do that. Okay, this is interesting. It would certainly not be enough to make her viable competitively, but in solo queue, um, oh no, wait, didn't they do that change where her Q can't be procced by E anymore? That was a big change. Oh boy, I don't know if she can recover. That was really what the nail in the coffin was, because she could consistently proc her Q because she could just E it, but now she can't consistently proc her Q, especially against champions like Kalista, who can gap close 20 times by the time her dash is done. You know, 20 times about 20 attacks in the point 0.3. Yeah, that seems about right. Ashe, not gonna. I never comment on this stuff because I haven't seen them, and so I don't know what to tell you. I mean, all I can say is that a champion who still has a 35% permaslow is not going to be well balanced ever. And this shit here, the fact that we're buffing Ashe, just all I can say is that they're trying to make Olaf viable. Meanwhile, Ashe and Olaf, a champion who has to pop his ult just to try to get into range. And then if Ashe just runs the other direction and dodges 2 or 3, because all you really have to do, you've only got 6 seconds to ult. The reality is you're going to be able to throw 3, maybe 4 cleavers. You're going to need to hit 3, about 3 to 4 to get in range. If you get, you know, if she gets any like Lulu speed buff, if she is cleanse, you know, which is actually pretty popular against Olaf because you can't get in range against cleanse. If it's Ezreal, if it's a champion who can just run away, you know, and especially against Ashe, you know, all you need is to like lantern her away. Now Olaf, he's slow as 45%, sure, but it's a skill shot with a much longer cooldown than every auto attack. So I really wish I would have made it an ability rather than just made it her passive. I think she's going to be blindingly overpowered, but again, no comment. Whatever. The other thing that makes me think she's going to be blindingly overpowered, though, is Ashe was made really tanky back in the day for an AD carry. She was made really tanky to make up for the fact that she just was way underperforming and everybody jumped on her. Now, she's still really tanky for an AD carry, but I mean, she's much better in the laning phase, much better. Much better. Um, I mean, is, it's like, ugh. I mean, you can't just, you can't just buff every ability. You can't buff every ability on a champion. You can't buff every single ability. That's not a rework. That's just buffing every single ability. Look at this. That's a big buff. 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 Anyway, that's it.